Alright, so on this project, what we're going to be doing is making a small anvil. You can see right now there's the steel block I'm going to be using. It's roughly 2.5 inches at the top by around 4 inches, 4.5. Right now I'm just polishing up the face because I'm going to be welding it, and I want to make sure it's got a good surface to weld on. I don't want any rust or anything like that. So you can see I'm just grinding it. I'm working on my bench grinder because I only have one grinding disc for my angle grinder, so I really don't want to use that up. So we're going a little slow. Now for the top piece, I'm going to be welding on a piece of, I think this is either 1040 or 1045, I'm not sure. Right now it's an 1.25 inch rod, round rod, so what I'm going to be doing is just forging it out, flattening it out a bit, and bringing it to the right dimension. It took about, I don't know, 4 or 5 heats. I'm just measuring it up against the anvil there. You can see I just keep breaking it up. It has to go a little bit wider. A little bit wider. And once it gets roughly to the dimension I want, I'm going to go ahead with the flatter and just flatten the entire thing out so it sits well on the anvil face. Just polishing it up, making it nice and smooth, and then finishing it with the wire brush because it's easier to brush the scale off when it's hot right now than once it gets cold. Just cleaning that out. Now I'm just measuring it to the top of the anvil face, and I'm going to scribe with an old file exactly how much I want to cut, because I'm going to have to cut a little bit from each side, because it was cut to center, so there's a little bit of a bulge out on one end, and of course it's not the perfect length that I want. So I'm just going ahead with the angle grinder, just cutting that out. And you can see here on the left, well, on the table, there's also the horn, what's going to end up as the square horn in the hardy block. That's just sitting on the table there. That's going to be welded in the next video. So I'm just going ahead cutting this. This isn't too bad cutting. I got the thing to maybe 3/16 of an inch thick. It's a little thin. Ideally I'd like it to be a little thicker, like at least 1/4 inch, but I'm using what I have here, and that's kind of the theme of this build. You have to use what you have. This isn't a perfect thing with set dimensions. The only thing I bought on this project is that anvil block, the main big block, and that rod, but I bought that a long time ago. Anyway, so I'm just welding a spacer here. This is about 3/8 of an inch. This is a 3/8 square bar, and I'm gonna put the face of 1045 on top of that, and I'm gonna weld the space in between to get a full penetration weld, just to be able to, just so I don't have a dead anvil. So just tacking that on right now. And I have kind of an underpowered welder. It only runs at 90 amps. It's a Century Lincoln. It's a small one. Now again, I'm just polishing the face of the anvil. Because I want to get a good weld in, so everything has to be nice and clean. No scale, nothing like that. It's still a little bit warm at this point from the forge, so that's why I'm wearing gloves. You can see a bit on the left, that heavy piece of angle. It's touching on angle. It's for supports for like doors in masonry structures, but anyway, that's what's going to end up as the feet. So that's just sitting right there on the left. Just polishing up the face. Again, I don't want to use my only grinding disc, so we're just using the bench grinder here. Now I'm just filling in that space. Slowly. This whole process took roughly 3 hours welding the face on, which I think is kind of ridiculous. I don't know, if I were to do it again, something this small, I think what I would have done is taken the main block up to, I don't know, 1500 degrees just before scaling heat, and at that point I would weld the top plate on all the way seamlessly, and I would probably try to forge weld it on. It would probably end up taking less time. I don't imagine it would take more than an hour. And this took 3 hours, just mostly because my welder was a pretty weak welder, so I had to wait a lot of time. It only has a 20% duty cycle, so I was waiting, doing other stuff at the same time. But yeah, I think it would have been better if I were to forge weld the face on. So here you can see I'm hardening the thing. I just brought it up to critical temperature, checking the magnet, it's okay, and cooling it off in a bucket of water. This cooling took quite a while. I of course edited the video, but it took quite a while. But as a result of that, I didn't temper the thing at all. I was checking with the hammer and it didn't chip, so I thought that was good enough. That's all it needs to do, but it was much harder than a mild steel face would be, so the hardening was successful. And you can see here, me just testing it out, you can see I'm tapping it, and that's the mild steel, so that's just the bottom of what's going to end up as the anvil. And I'm going to flip it over. Like, you can see the rebound it's not that great, but you can see when I flip it over, it's a little bit better. So it was worth it. The face is going to be more durable than if I just left it as mild. And of course, you don't have to do that. And you can see me testing my main angle. You can see it rebounds the hammer much better. So, okay. Click the video to see the next part, and if you like the video, then subscribe for more.